Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Microsoft Azure Community User Group. I'm Nicholas. I'm with my co-host Kevin. Want to say hi?
Hey, folks. Welcome to another episode.
Yeah. So today's session is going to be all about Bicep, Azure Bicep, and bit of Azure AI agents. So if you want to know before we get started, let's do some simple housekeeping. Let me just share my screen. Uh, I think you can see, right? No, wrong one.
You've got the wrong one. If only we had somebody technical on the stream, Nick.
Sorry.
Same again.
One sec. Okay, can you see?
Yeah, just put it in presentation mode and we're good.
Yeah. Okay. The reason is okay. Let's just quickly do this. Okay.
Just go from there.
Yeah. So who am I? I'm Nicholas, and I'm a Microsoft MVP and a senior platform engineer for Canis.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, Kevin Green. I'm an Azure and an Azure AI or an AI Services MVP from Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah. So before we get started, we just want to go through our code of conduct. Would you like to do this one?
Yeah, I can do this one. So, code of conduct, folks. All members of this group should adhere to this code of conduct, please. Just be friendly and welcoming to everyone. No nasty comments. We've never had any problems with this, but obviously it's always a good point to call it out. Be patient. If you have a question, Nick and I will be available on the sidelines to answer your questions. We'll make sure that the speakers get the answers for you. If there's an answer that ourselves or the speakers can't answer, we'll make sure we take your details and we'll come back to you over the next day or so. Do be thoughtful, be respectful and inclusive, and be open and curious. Ask the questions to understand and not criticize. Thanks, folks.
Yeah. So our session today is all about Azure Bicep and low AI agents. So Alcon Muscovy, sorry if I pronounced it wrong, and he's doing this. He's an MVP at MCT and he's a director at T-Rex. He's doing a session on exploring Azure Bicep innovation with the Cloud Marathon community, and then followed by Sarah Vandia. Apologies for saying it incorrect. And he's an Azure MVP in AI and IoT. And he's working for data consultant services as an assistant consultant. And he's doing a session on building AI agent for autonomous cloud and with AI Ops Lab. The next session is next month in September, but it's to be confirmed. I'm still working on that. So yeah, so the first session will be Alcon. Let me just bring him on stage.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Alcon.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Nick and Kevin, having me here for this session. Very excited, and I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Awesome.
I'm good, thanks. So before we dive into your session, do you want to just tell us a brief summary of what your session could be out before we dive into
Yes. So today we'll have a very brief introduction into what's the cloud marathon community that I'm trying to shape up and lead, and then we'll dive into technical part, which is the Azure Bicep, right? How to get started, and most importantly, once you get started, what are the new stuff that came from Azure Bicep community, namely the Microsoft Graph extension, and how you can get up to speed with that, and of course. I'll have some demos in between. I'll switch between slides and demos. I hope you can grab some new bicep skill motivation from this session. That's my goal for today.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Looking forward to it, Elkan.
Sure. Thank you for having me. All right, guys, let's kickstart, right? We don't have much time to, without any overdue, and let's start our session. So welcome to the session. maybe some of you already know about me. My name is Elhan. I'm a cloud marathoner and as well as Microsoft Azure MVP in infrastructure as a code. I help the community in different ways. I'm a Microsoft community lead on MCT, which is the Microsoft Certified Trainer. I do internal trainings at the company, and sometimes I have also public trainings. But overall, I'm very excited to share information with you on specific topics. And Alan Florence, thank you for your comments. Alan is the dedicated fan of the Bicep community, and I see him in most of the sessions. Thank you for being here and for your support. Next, what we'll cover today, I will switch between slides and demos. So we'll start with what's the Cloud Marathoner community, what it stands for, why it is there. Then we'll jump into express intro into the Azure Bicep. Then we'll look into some code reusability, namely, modularization, why you need the modules, how they can help to your team and your code base uh, if you are developing infrastructure as a code. Then we'll look into Bicep extensions, what it is, and we'll look into the specific example of it using the Microsoft Graph extension that was just released last week as a GA. And of course, demos in between will lighten up our session with some actionable things that you would learn from. Okay, regarding the Cloud Marathon community, it started with just an idea to help to the community in terms of like to upskill everyone and share information. So Cloud Marathoner community, of course, is not a single person. It's more of a social movement to help new beginners and seasoned pros to continue cloud learning journey by sharing and inspiring each other, motivating each other for the next steps in your growth, helping community and everyone individually grow, and as well as helping the minority or underrepresented groups in IT to prepare and pass their first Microsoft Cloud exam and certifications. In fact, last year there were a couple of people that I was very happy to help to pass their first Microsoft certifications. Next here, what is Azure Bicep? So probably some of you already know that it's a domain-specific language written for specific purpose to declare and manage Azure resources in Azure environment. Previously, we had only ARM templates, which we will dive into a little bit more. They were not as user-friendly and easy to start with. And the Azure Bicep, is simplifying the resource management and creation in Azure and making that experience pleasant for all of us. Um, of course, so it's the domain specific language you mentioned. It's helping us to author and create the resources. It's a transparent abstraction over ARM. ARM is a Azure Resource Manager. It's a template that has been there for a long time in Azure environment where you can declare the resources, but it was JSON formatted and it was not easy to learn. And you will see that in the action once I show that in the demo. And of course, Azure Bicep is a new way doing infrastructure as a code with Microsoft Azure. To keep that in the graph, kind of to make it more easy to understand, here as you see, this is the Azure. Oops, let me go back here. I jumped the slides. So here, the first one is a Bicep file. So what it is, it's basically, you would see that it's a infrastructure as a code written type of file that declares your resources. And whenever we are trying to manage resources in Azure using the resource providers, which are beneath the Azure Resource Manager layer that we have here, right? This is the Azure Resource Manager layer that we have. And these are the providers that Azure Resource Manager is speaking to. So whenever there's a request coming to the Azure Resource Manager layer, it's going to analyze the request and then send the HTTPS request to the resource provider in order to update or create new resources for you using your Azure Bicep declaration. Same thing is done with other client tools that you may have. No, for example, Terraform is one of them. You may also have Pulumi, or you can just send the HTTPS request using your uh, regular, header and body information about the change. Now, why Azure Bicep, right? So why you should spend your time and get familiar with that? It has more than 10 reasons to do that. These are just some of them listed on the slide. It's easy to start to understand. It comes with day zero support. We already mentioned about that. It's an abstraction over ARM template. It comes with very great tooling, namely Bicep extension within the Visual Studio Code and as well as Visual Studio. And you also have clean code syntax, which is easy to understand for new starters, new beginners. And then it follows with code reusability. It's much easier to reuse your code in Azure Bicep than when you compare that with ARM template or any other similar tool. It has deep integration with Azure. You can pre-flight your checks before deploying your resource into your Azure environment. You don't have to manage any state file as you would normally do with other infrastructure code providers. And it comes production support ready. And even more, I would tell you that when you use Azure Bicep, and there are some not and there are still some experimental or in preview resources in this Azure Bicep because it talks directly to the APIs. You get this first-hand access. So it's first-class citizen when you are trying to speak with your Azure Resource Manager and getting the APIs which are in preview. They are not globally available yet. So all these are available with Azure Bicep. So to give you some idea about of that, let's switch to the gears here and go to Visual Studio Code. Let me make it a little bit bigger as your screen might be small. So here what I would do, I would go to these app services, right? So let's so here, just to give you an idea what's Azure Bicep, it's a declaration of resources. And here we have some syntax where you see that it has declaration of resource. It's a location, in Azure Bicep where we need to deploy our resources. It has app service name, app service plan. But overall, let's say you don't know what it is, right? It's first time you open this file and you want to get some high level idea what type of Azure Bicep file you are working with. This Azure Bicep extension, that's once it is installed on your Visual Studio Code, would be a lifesaver. Why I'm saying that? Because here you have a very great tool called Bicep Visualizer. If you use that one, it will try to visualize the resources and their connections that are within the file that you are in. So let's open that. So here, when we use that, we see that, okay, this is actually a Azure web app. It has a service plan, it has an app itself, and that's the whole declaration is about. So there is no resource group that you have to deal here, which is fine, so you need to have your resource group in place before deploying this. So this is kind of one of the ways how you can easily start with Azure Bicep by exploring what are the components, what are the services. But if you go now into kind of weeds of understanding what's here, you would see that, okay, you have these two resources here declared with the resource keyword. First one is application service plan, which is the environment where your web app is going to run. And then you attach that application service plan to a specific web app, which is sites here as an API and location. Everything is defined here to make sure that once you deploy that, it could run. Okay, we have the Bicep file, how to deploy that. There are different, let's look how we can deploy this into environment. There are different ways that you can use. One of the easiest one that you can try is actually right click, which is also a relatively new feature. It appeared in last year or so. When you right click, you should see here different options, but you should see show deployment pane or show deployment pane to the side if you want to put it as a visualization on the side. And then if you click on that, it will give you idea that you need to choose your subscription, you set your parameters, and once you click deploy, it will deploy right away from your Visual Studio Code, right? But as a friend to friend, you can experiment with that, but it's not the one of the best ways that you want to proceed with the deployment. So this is just the experimental help there visually give you idea if you want to quick and fast deploy that. But the better way is, of course, to use the scripts. You can use your Azure CLI script. You can use PowerShell to deploy this Bicep file and make the change to your resource or create new ones. To do that, here in this GitHub repo, I'm going to share the location of this GitHub repo. We are looking at Learn Bicep GitHub repo, which has many examples that you can dive into. But here under the scripts, you will see that I have different scripts for different scenarios of the resources that I have. And here you may see that you would need first login, right, to Azure command line, how you can authenticate your credentials so that you can access the Azure subscription that you have access and rights. And then there are different ways how you can deploy here to the subscription. You can also deploy your resource into a resource group. So there are like different ways you can do that. For example, this is the example where it's deploying a template that I have for AVM ACR that get deployed into the resource group called Cloud Demo 01. So this is kind of short view into what's Azure Bicep, how it is. But I also mentioned that it's a abstraction over ARM template, right? So what does that mean? It means that if you go ahead and let me bring back the Visual Studio again, Visual Studio Code. Here, if you go back to our file, which is app service, and let's say you want to see the ARM template representation of that, there are different ways to do that. And one way is you can always go right click and say build ARM template. What it would do, it would generate ARM template representation, or it will decompile it into ARM template. And if you want to see your ARM template, here it is. It should be, it should after the decompile process, it will appear right under your Bicep file. And if you click on that, here's your, representation of Azure Web App and App Service Plan in a ARM template. So this is the ARM template representation, which was the traditional way how the resource have been, declared, managed, and in Azure environments before Bicep arrived. Okay, that's it. I'm going to close this file and jump back to the slide where we left. So we looked in some of them. So I hope that looked interesting to you and you want to start your Azure Bicep journey. If you are, we have this great community-driven repo called Awesome Azure Bicep, where we have collection of official and as well as community contributions of articles, videos, and many great posts that community members have contributed over the time. There are more than 22 members now, maybe 25, I didn't count, but I highly encourage you to check this repo. Next, if you are more of a visual learner, you can also check the LinkedIn platform learning videos. You can type Azure Bicep. Recently, I released a video called Azure Bicep Introduction to Azure Bicep, which also has a chapter about how you can use GitHub Copilot to modify your Azure Bicep file and implement best practices there, right? So that's a number of things that you can use. Now, let's come back to what is Azure Bicep modules and why we want to talk about the Azure Bicep modules, because it's all about reusability, right? How you can reuse pieces of declaration of the code. Let's say you declare the storage account or you declared an Azure web app, but you want to reuse that in a bigger deployment files. That's why you need to modularize that, right? So when you modularize your site, it brings a lot of benefits. Some of them is, of course, usability. Second, you bring the type safety and IntelliSense into your code. Then it support all the Azure resource types, and it's idempotent deployment, meaning that once you declare that and you use the modules, no matter how many times you deploy, the results going to be the same. So idempotent deployment is actually very important for any infrastructure as a code tool, if you are following that principles. And then, of course, it comes with integration with Azure Bicep Registry, where you can pull some of those modules. You can also use modules from Azure Verified modules. That's another Microsoft maintained repository. I would highly recommend to look into that, but on its own, Azure Verified Modules is a separate topic, separate session that maybe we'll address on our next session here. So let's come back to Azure demos at this moment. So the first demo that we are going to go is going to be about those modules, right? How we can reuse and the and how modularization is going to work. So we'll look into how to modularize your code, how it will look like. And secondly, we'll look how to define those modules in Bicep. So to do that, I'm going to switch to Visual Studio Code. This time, I'm going to close this file and close this CLI. So here, basically, once you open this learn dash bicep repo, GitHub repo, and again, you'll get the link for that. To see this, you will see that there's a number of samples here. So one of these samples is called deploy modules with parameters. And this is the one where all all the resources that you would see here are parameterized. Not parameterized, but they are modularized. So what I mean by that, here we see that we have app service declaration, right? But this time this declaration is a bit different than the previous one. And the reason is obvious, right? So there is a reference to the modules. This is the place where app services.bicep is. So it's going to pull out that module, that reusable piece of code where we declared and define app service, and then based on the scope that I provide, which is going to be the resource group where I want to deploy, we are defining the name using the string interpolation. Basically, we define a unique string and the name of this deployment, and then we can pass whatever parameters are accepted by this module. And this way, what happens is that we have this module that we don't have to write from scratch, and that module can be reused by other team members, so you can standardize your code across the team, across the organization even. Okay, so here we have a number of modules. In order to see them all, we are going to use our friend here, Azure Bicep Visualizer, to get familiar with code base. Okay, here we go. So here we see that it's quite a big deployment from our main Bicep file, which deploys these app services in its own resource group. It deploys the virtual machine in its from its own resource group, and then we have a couple of storage accounts and databases here. So it's all done using this orchestration that's using the modules within the one main Bicep file. And of course, you can parameterize that. It comes with the parameters. Next here, let me switch to another demo where you can do that is uh, this is the visualizer that we talked about. It's colorful, comes with the graphs, which is the great improvement if you compare that with the previous visualizer where you didn't have all these beautiful icons, so to speak, to make it more appealing to the person who's trying to analyze this. Next here, Azure Bicep extension. So what is Azure Bicep extension? Before jumping into Azure Bicep extensions, I want to mention that extensions are very important uh, in Bicep. So what extensions do in Bicep is that they are there to expand the language itself, the Bicep language capabilities in declaring and managing Azure resources. So, for example, here with Azure Bicep extension, it allows us to reference and deploy resources beyond the native ARM scope, such as Microsoft Graph resources or other external systems. So what it does, it combines the Azure and non-Azure resources in a single Bicep file. It uses the custom providers or third-party APIs in our infrastructure as a code workflow, and it simplifies the complex deployment scenarios by unifying them under one declarative module. So that's kind of power of this Microsoft Graph Bicep extension. If you look here, on the on a diagram that we have here. So what it is, this is our Microsoft Graph, right? That's the kind of API through which we are talking. So this is our Bicep code. So basically, what Bicep extension for Microsoft Graph provides is that by referencing this extension, you can create groups, then you can assign managed identity so that you can create those groups with managed identity as a member. Then once it is all declared, you can push it all into the Azure Bicep environment, which is here. So, and the regular deployment engine that you may use, which could be your, Azure CLI, or it could be your PowerShell. It could be also a GitHub Actions where once you check in your code, your change, it's going to trigger the deployment, build the ARM template, and deploy that into the environment where you want. So it's all here. So, but keep in mind that this resource resource that get created itself is going to be created not within the your subscription, but within the Entra, right? It's going to be created, this group is going to be created within the Entra ID uh, where your subscription actually belongs to. So to give you that example, I think that would make it even better. So let's look at the demo where we'll use actual this graph Bicep extension, and we'll look into some best practice how to deal with that. All right, that's said, let's jump to the Visual Studio Code here. Yes, you can also have Azure DevOps for deployments. Definitely, that's a good suggestion there. So what we are going to do here, the actual code itself is located in um, this 25 graph Bicep extension. That's where you can go and get this code. This is under the samples folder here in Learn Bicep GitHub, which is public accessible to everyone. Before doing these extensions, as you see, it has this wording saying extension. Um, and what it means it's referring to this Microsoft Graph V1 version 1. And to know what it is or declare that in your code base, you need to have bicep config JSON file. And this bicep config JSON file should have extensions section where you define the actual extension library, which one you are going to talk in order to be able to create Microsoft Graph resources. So once it is declared, then it means that once you come to the extension and you type this name of the extension, it can be, of course, you can give a different name if you would like to. It's just the alias. Then you would be able to reference it. Once it is there, of course, here in the next line, we define a location parameter. And then we define the group itself. It's a new group. We give it a very unique name. We call it demo group 1. It has a nickname. It has a unique name, but most importantly, it also need to have if you would like to assign an owner for the user group, for this group, which is going to be security group, by the way, it's going to be managed identity. And managed identity here is created so that using this managed identity, we are able to create and assign the users. In addition to that, actually, you may also have UPN of users within your Microsoft Entra environment, where you can iterate through that file and add those users into this group. So it's also possible, but it's going to prolong this demo. I want to try to keep it short and sweet. So it's going to show the capabilities of Microsoft Graph extension of the Azure Bicep. So how it's going to work, right? So to deploy this, what we are going to do, we have this deployment file here, sample 25. If you want to deploy it on your own, you would want to make sure you authenticate to the Azure environment and you have access to the Microsoft Entra ID. Okay, that's very important. And then, you define your, so let's go from here. So I'm going to list all the tables to make sure that my connection is still correct. So it should show all the resource groups in this line here. So if you see all the resource groups, I mostly locate them East US 2. Then I need to create this resource group in order, a place where I will put my managed identity. And to give you an idea about that is, let me bring this here, so as you see, I have how many? I have 14 resource groups here. Now after this deployment, we should see a change here. So let's go and deploy this new resource group. Okay, new resource group deployed. So if you look at this, if you look at our, so within few seconds, you'll see that new resource group will appear here. If it doesn't appear, that's fine. It usually takes the UI some time. You can always list the, you can go and list all the resource groups using the Azure group list, and you should see a new, so our new resource group name starts with bicep-graph. And if you look at that, we see that, okay, here, actually our resource group is created. So within a couple seconds, again, you would see that on your portal as well. But we are not going to wait for that. So next, we want to deploy that graph file, graph bicep extension file, which creates the new group and new managed identity extension. So to do that, you can again go and basically deploy this template into our new resource group. Let's do that. And what we should expect here is that we should expect a new group to be created. So if you look at our file, this new group name, the name should be the demo group -01. It should have unique name as well, and as well as it should have a managed identity assigned to that. So while this deployment is in progress, I'm going to go back here to my portal, Azure portal, and I can make it a bit bigger. So as you see here, we have bicep graph demo. So this resource group just appeared and it is there, and it's something going on here. We have already our managed identity deployed. Okay. And if you look at, let me bring the Entra here. Okay, so I'm in the Entra now. So we have 3 security groups here. Total, we have 5 groups. Yeah, and demo group 01 is already here. So it's deployed, it's here, and it should have no members. As we see, there's no members. And if you go back and we refresh this, you see the demograph API is there. So all this just get deployed. But here's the catch, right? So whenever you deploy, especially with managed identities, you would get this error. And don't get scared about that. This is expected error because usually creating a managed identity takes some time and some communication on the intra environment. So it's not, fast process, so to speak. And that managed identity needs to be utilized while creating our group. However, as we said, it's an important deployment, right? Meaning that if you redeploy it, it's going to, apply the same change and it should work. So because of that thing, what we are going to do is we are just going to redeploy our extension Microsoft Graph Bicep extension file, which should again create the create or update our existing user group, right, with a new group name, and then add the name. So once you run this a second time, it's going to succeed. So let it run. So while it's running, I want to wrap up session, and then we'll come to the actual what we covered. So we went with the speed of light, so to speak, through what's Cloud Marathoner community, why it is needing you as a member who is can contribute there with any new cloud learning or anything that encourages the team members within the community to to grow their career, help to each other, and share the knowledge that they gain. This is all about that. So come and join Cloud Marathoner community. You can also say hi to me, and if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. Next, we had very expressed intro into Azure Bicep, what it is, why it is, what are the advantages, and why you need to take some time to get accustomed with this new infrastructure as a code tool. Next, we looked into code reusability in Bicep. Namely, we talked about uh, modules, how you can develop the modules, how modules can make your code much easier to understand and maintain in long run, so that you can declare the Azure resource and as well as manage them effectively. Then we looked into Bicep extensions. We say that extensions are basically extend the capabilities of the Azure Bicep language, and then we considered the Microsoft Graph as one of the extensions that's up there. You also have the Kubernetes extensions. If you are interested, you can also check that one. And there are some more extensions coming in near future. And then we have a couple of demos here and there to understand not just the concepts, but also how it looks like in real hands-on environment, so you can get started. So any questions that we may have from the studio? Now it's time for the questions. Please go ahead.
Great session, Elkan. There's no questions have come in on the comments anyway, but we do have actually close to 60 people online. So obviously, hot topic. Azure Bicep is a really powerful language once you get your head around it and once you start using it regularly. So
Yes, and speaking of that, Kevin, because I'm also as a Microsoft MVP, we are also very important for us is to gather the users' feedback perspective. I know that with Azure Bicep, as with any other tool, once you start use that, there might be something that end users or developers want to improve. So anyone from the group, if you have any suggestions or feedback that you want that to be heard and as well as implemented, why not? Yeah, feel free to put that here or reach back to me on LinkedIn or on X platform, wherever you want. I would be happy to hear and bring your concern. That's very dear and near to me. I will just add something more. Is that in addition to that, once you start using the Bicep language, try to utilize as a code generation tool. Everybody speak about GitHub Copilot, right? So it's kind of elephant in the room. Everybody's using, and
Yeah.
we are not denying it. So if you are using that and you see some issues on Bicep code generation or something doesn't work the way that you would want, again, feel free to reach back. I'm also utilizing that tool to improve my understanding, of Azure Bicep, and as well as, make a good contribution to the Microsoft community as well. Yes, back to you, Kevin. Sorry, I
Yeah.
hijacked your.
no, you made some very, very valid points. I second your point around the Azure Bicep uh, product group and program management group in Microsoft are super receptive to feedback. They want the best. They're offering this out for free. They're not charging people for
Right.
it. It's a
Yeah.
it's a native language for anybody who's used JSON when you were delivering DevOps into Azure. This is like a world apart easier in terms of just an understanding of that language. And I love your comment. You're right about the GitHub Copilot. Like AI, at least at the moment, it keeps getting better and better every few
Yeah.
months, right? So,
Yeah.
but like AI on its own is not going to teach you coding. Maybe there's a good argument in a few years that you don't need to know coding very well because AI is going to do it. I don't think that's going to happen,
No.
but it's going to just be like any other learning tool. Like when I was kind of starting out in IT, there was no YouTube, there was very little, there was no Reddit, all these forums, and people just figured out how to get information to make them better at their job. Now you've got so many resources, I suppose it's kind of hard to understand which
Yes.
are the good resources, which ones give the valid information. And if you're using or you must use AI to help you code or learn about it or query it, just for bugs and stuff, GitHub Copilot is supported by the GitHub team, which is part of Microsoft. It's got all of the learnings of the latest versions of Bicep, obviously depending on what version of GitHub Copilot you use. But I
Yeah.
think totally valid points. Use it alongside that. Contribute to the GitHub repos. Put in your pull requests if there's anything there, or just reach out to Elkan and the MVP community, and we'll get that message to the product group.
Yes, and Kieran, I will just add something there with GitHub Copilot. You know, whenever you deal with AI tools, it's very important to have your baseline knowledge in place, and that's very important because whenever you will get responses from GitHub Copilot, it can be your Azure Bicep, it can be any other coding language,
Yeah.
and you see that something doesn't match or doesn't make sense. In order to have that feeling, you need to have that baseline. Otherwise, you can get lost on the responses of the GitHub Copilot or any other tool there from AI, which, as you know, AI can hallucinate and give you some really crazy responses. Not recently, but that used to be the case. So that if you know your baselines, you would know how to debug and find out your way, or prompt engineer your way that it will take you less time and more ready, or more, so to speak, production ready code out of your time that you spend with the GitHub Copilot. So mind that. That's why I would always recommend to learn at least the baseline and fundamentals of the language or tool you are trying to use. That will save you a ton of time, and will save from a lot of frustration, so to speak.
Right, totally agree. Nick, any
Yeah.
comments?
No, I like the new feature that you demonstrate on the deployment stuff. When you right click to VS Code, you have different options.
Yes, yes. It has, like, you can
Yeah,
right click and you can set you can choose your subscription, the source code where you want deployed, and it will just go from the UI. You don't have to know any Azure CLI or anything like that.
yeah,
It's there.
that's
Yeah.
quite handy. Yeah, it's quite handy when people like for people to try where it is. But
Yes,
I
just
think for
try.
that, they won't know where it is until you tell someone because it's quite new and stuff, and it's quite like hidden unless you just
Yeah.
right click it.
There's
Yeah,
bunch of, when you make a right click, there's a bunch of things comes up, and in the
yeah.
beginning there was only few. Now even myself, when I look at them, sometimes I get confused. Okay, which one I'm going to use now? Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Uh,
definitely,
do, do,
yeah.
do you know whether you can actually export the visualizer? You know, the visualizer you show with
So
the
it
diagram, like export it and put it like in
yes.
architect diagram and stuff.
I
Uh,
screenshotted that. Being honest, I didn't use the to export that. I screenshot and used as a kind of image, right, as a visualization. But did I export that? No, I didn't try that yet.
yeah, because if it can export it and people put it in like in SharePoint or Dry.io, so it's easier to than to draw it. So you get it,
Yes,
it's draw it for you. So that's quite handy.
definitely. Yeah. All right, that's
Okay,
it.
thanks for joining us.
Let's
So
wrap
you
up.
can,
And before we
yeah,
wrap up, let me give some references to the awesome
wow,
community and audience that are having this. So first of all, that repo that you saw, Learn Bicep, that's the one, the QCR code here. If you're on your phone, Learn Bicep GitHub. Then if you want to look at some LinkedIn learning videos, you can start with Azure Bicep First Look. But this is kind of, it doesn't incorporate all the newest one. There's a newest one
okay,
called Azure Introduction to Azure Bicep, which was released July, basically 4 weeks ago. So that one has more information, and it has like this GitHub Copilot as well, where I experiment with that to take the Azure Bicep code and make it even prettier and more production ready, so to speak. Then we have Bicep project itself here, which is the official Microsoft Bicep project GitHub. So if you want to follow all the latest, releases and what's happening, I would definitely recommend you to go and look at that. And of course, this community repo, Awesome Azure Bicep, where we have a number of people who contributed, including the MVPs. You are more than welcome to check it out. But these are some of the resources I want to give back as a reference to all the viewers to check out on your time and enjoy, your infrastructure as a code with Bicep.
Well done, Elkan. I love
awesome.
the QR codes there for the
Yeah,
reference. Awesome idea.
Sure, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for invite, and thank you Microsoft Azure community for this great series of videos that you create for the community, and engaging the community to learn and start communication collaboration. Thank you.
You are very
thank
welcome.
you.
Okay, so next up, folks, thanks very much to Elkan for a brilliant session. So next up, we have Saravan and Ganasan. and he's going to speak about building AI agents for autonomous clouds with AI Ops Lab. So we're going to flip it around from DevOps and into straight into AI. So over to you, Saravanan.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, good morning, good evening, and yeah, good night as well in India. Yeah, it's been nice to meet you and in this show. Actually, thank you for giving me this opportunity, Kevin and Nicholas, for it. Actually, so I'm sharing my screen quickly, and I will go to the session so that I can share some insightful information for the viewers about the gay ops lab. Actually, what is a ops lab and how we can use it to um, evaluate our gay agents. Actually, okay. So I'll be sharing my screen.
No problem. We'll let you know when it comes up.
Yeah, the screen is visible.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Yeah. Hello everyone. Actually, it's been like uh, gay ops lab. Actually, it's nothing but actually it's a open source framework actually, which been built by a group of engineers from Microsoft for evaluating your gay agents, and that also automate your cloud operations actually, which leads to autonomous cloud environments. And actually, and also if you see this actually. It's like actually it not only actually detect the issues or problems which are there with your gay agents, this gay ops lab, but also it will be used to take some corrective actions like scaling your resources or configuring your systems in response to the things actually which you encounter during the productivity time and to the real time demands as well from your clients as well actually. So the main purpose of gay ops lab is actually like to make your AI agents very scalable, and then actually it's been like a error free based things in terms of system design actually. So that's the main reason why actually research paper on AI Ops Lab was released by Microsoft, and it's still under R&D actually from the group of engineers from Microsoft as well actually. Okay. So, and this is a system architecture about the ops. Like actually, if you see here, actually, we have some good layers actually, or the good the type of places like orchestra, service, observability, workload generator, and fault generator. Okay, so these are the blocks actually which are really important in in the ops labs system architecture, so that actually we are going to see individually about how these things are really helpful in making our agents error free and scalable for the the corruption based environments as well actually. So if you see here actually in this architecture diagram actually, if you see that there'll be like a agent can take actions and it will be sent to the orchestra, and then it will be from the orchestra it will be get deployed, and it will be done as a workload using Helm or Kubernetes, and then actually it will be sent to your problem cache for workload generator and for a fault generator and for other day ops task as well actually. So we will be actually discussing about this entire architecture in detail in upcoming slides, and also you can also be able to know actually what are the building blocks has been explaining about the day ops lab and their goal in evaluating your day agents as well actually. Okay. Okay, then what is meant by agent cloud interface actually? ACI, it's a term actually which will be uh, used actually strictly in actually in the ops lab actually, which can be used which strictly separates your agent and in application surveys by using an intermediate not just actually. Not only to that actually, it also deports the benchmark problems in your uh, agents actually, like problem description and descriptions, instructions, and what are the APIs available to call as actions actually. Okay, and also actually each API call, each action which is performing on this on orchestra should be validated, and it carries out some information to your services and generators layers as well actually. And also actually you can get able to document this the APIs are actually working out as a documented tools which can get logs and get the metrics and also execute the shell which is designed to get the particular agent to solve a task actually. So that is the goal of the agent cloud interface layer whichever we are talking, which clearly distinguish between your the agent and cloud interface or the application services which are lying in this Dorchester. And also it also deals us to give some really well documented metrics, and also it also provides some extension to of your gateways to new services and generators as well actually. So if you see here, actually, you can be able to onboard a day of slab actually to your agent. Actually, for example, if you have an agent actually, okay, this is a code snippet. Actually, we will be daily using like from a of slab import orchestra, and then actually inside the class agent actually we will be defining the actions state actually, and also we have been initializing the orchestra and evaluating and registering the uh, agents for this particular orchestra as well actually. So also it will see, if you see here actually it will be mentioning that how much steps that the orchestra has to run, and we can be able to easily configure that maximum number of steps as well while running your day ops for your during your agent onboarding actually. Okay. And then it comes about services actually. We have a n number of services actually, also the diverse set of services which are differing as variations in production environments of your agents. So in this actually, if you see live running services which are implemented during implemented using various architectural principles, which includes microservices, serverless, and monolithic actually. So if you see here actually the term the dead star bench actually, which provides artifacts like source code and commit history along with runtime telemetry. And also actually if you see it will be adding the tools like Git Blueprint can help DevOps Lab scale to in other academic and production services as well actually. Okay, so this is about service layer actually, which are thought of our the DevOps Lab architecture actually. Okay, and then if you see in this actually, if in next slide if you're going to see about the workload generator, then what is the main role of workload is actually like they can be able to just they can be able to actually they can they plays a very the crucial role by creating some simulations for both the faulty and normal scenarios actually. And also it disease the specifications from the Dorchester actually, because the output which is coming from the Dorchester will be accessing input to this workload generator, which is in terms of task, the desired effect scale and the duration as well actually. And also if you see we should have these generators will be using some model trained on DL correction traces to generate the workloads that align with these specifications actually. And also, if you see, we have some the faulty scenarios actually, which will be generated by these workloads. It's really like resource exhaustion, exploit edge cases, or triggering the cascading failures, or any scenarios related to the jail incidents as well. And also, if you see for normal scenarios, will be type correction patterns, and also the daily activity cycles and multi-user interactions as well. So these both scenarios which are generated by the workload generator, which is be considered as faulty and in normal scenarios actually. Okay, and then actually if you see it is called the called generator actually. Okay, so fault generator is nothing but actually it is designed for some generic applicability, like it's like a kind grained fault injection capable of simulating some complex failures which are inspired by the production incidents. And also if you see actually it can inject flaws at various system levels, and which can cost a good cost analysis, good causes, while maintaining a semantic integrity and considering interdependencies between the cloud microservices. And also, if you see here, the versatility of these fault injectors can enhance the reliability and robustness of the cloud systems, which can enable through your testing and evaluation of day of capabilities actually. Um, the last one, which was not very least one, as in observability, there actually it is actually equipped with some comprehensive monitoring capabilities across various systems, layers for any AI ops tool. And also, if you say this observability collects a lot of telemetry metric data, which includes traces from end-to-end paths of requests to distributed systems and application logs which are formatted and recorded by the file beat and log stash, etc. And also, it's the observability supports only the four key tasks within the ops domain, and also it will be popular among the engagement frameworks like React or Autogen and task viewer actually. So now you go back to this diagram actually. If you see here, if a agent takes some action, then Norchester will be applying some deploy and workload to my um, uh, Kubernetes environment actually, and it will be going to which is there in my service and observability, which will be in the observability, it will be tracking the traces, metrics, and logs, and the services will which are responsible for in multiple API generation actually. And also from this orchestra actually, the problem or query actually, which is sent actually as problem, task, workload, and fault solution, will be sent to problem cache, and from there actually the workload generator, which will be generating the workloads related to faulty environment and non-faulty environments actually. And from there the fault generator will be captured, and it will be sent to problem cache. And from here actually we can also, from the orchestrate actually, we sending the service state back to the agent, and what kind of problems has been covered in this day knobs lab for this particular agent actually. Apart from that actually, if you see here, we have a day of tasks like localize, RCA, huge life, and then uh, Octet one, and also we have some applications which are running inside this particular agent, like social network, auto reservation, and e-commerce as well. Actually, so these are some of the this is the entire system architecture which deals about with the data ops lab, which is a research paper published with the Microsoft group of engineers actually. So it will be used in future that actually you to evaluate your agent. In terms of workloads or scalability or any task related things, or during your gain operational data as well actually, which can be captured here in this entire system architecture. So going back to the slides actually here, and this is one of the example of the ACA, the agent cloud interaction on diagnostics of tasks, where actually if you see here the agent, I need to first look at a log to understand if there are any errors or warnings that could indicate problems, what kind of actions, and it should give the composite post and test social service. And these are these logs actually which are generated by this the ACA, which carried out this good diagnosis task actually. So if this suggests a possible network issue or misconfiguration, so like this actually our diagnosis will be captured for a particular agent by using this ACA part actually. And this is a GitHub link actually, which is provided by um, the day of sleep team actually, which contains the steps actually which are required to get these things done actually. If you see here, so actually, this is an architecture, yeah, which we have been discussing in our slides, but it's in a detailed format. Actually, there it will be. This guys will be telling you about the installation of this day ops lab actually, and what are the what are the actually the they are actually they really require a Helm and Python, just running for greater than equal to 3.11, and then in Linux virtual machine or machine is daily required. And then actually, if you see, you have to we will be having two types of steps actually. If you see here, one is this day of slab as a local system we can also run it as a remote cluster actually. Or the remote cluster will be definitely a good choice for us actually, because it will not it will be all the cluster related activities will be taken care by the cloud labs setups actually. And also if you see here the steps which will be mentioned here for each onboarding things actually, for both the remote cluster and for the local clusters actually. And also if you see in which places actually we can use AI Ops Lab, means actually you can onboard your agent to AI Ops Lab, add your new applications to AI Ops Lab, and add new problems to the AI Ops Lab. Actually, if you see and onboard your AI Ops Lab, means actually it is of three simple steps. Like we need to create a agent, and then we need to register our agent using this thing in your AI Ops Lab, and then evaluate your agent on some problems as well. Actually, okay. So these are steps actually which are required actually. For onboarding a agent to a gay ops lab. And also if you see here, what are steps should be added new applications to gay ops lab. Actually we have some list of applications actually, okay. So these are some of the list of applications given by the DevOps lab team to evaluate your agents based upon their services actually. Okay, so if you want to add many more applications, you can add it here, and so that the operations which are taken care by this applications will be evaluated against your agent actually as well, which is getting onboarded to this DevOps lab actually. Okay, and then actually if you see the last part is about adding new problems to day of slab actually. Okay, what are we have some list of problems actually to evaluate the in agents actually. If you see here actually, these are some of the list of problems actually, which is gathered by some basic or default set of applications actually. Okay, which could occur as a part of your thing. If in case actually if it requires some more problems to be added for actually to this problem registry, you can go ahead and add it, and you can also it's kind of a unit testing part actually for your DA agents, so that you can test your agent in a very good way, and you can also find the efficiency of a day agent which is onboarded to this day ops lab actually, by adding more list of problems to it actually. And also if you see currently actually the task actually, what are the task has been considered by day ops means of the detection, localization, analysis, and mitigation actually. And also if you see if you want to add it to the steps have been mentioned here to how we can add a new problems to the a ops lab. And also if you see here, this is a project structure actually we have a for if you want to add generators, orchestra, and then actually if you want to add a service observer, uh, okay, you should have a separate folders for each and everything, and we should have a separate files like this actually in this folder. So this is a project structure actually. We'll be having a yeah, which can be actually which can be included in your day ops lab framework. And then also the which are the agents actually which are going to test as a part of day ops labs actually. And also if you see here, we have a full example of a problem here actually, so which is a target port which is missing in my day agent actually. So that so lot of examples have been provided in this GitHub page actually by the day ops lab team. So you guys can go ahead and we can test on, you can click on this part and you can get some ideas actually. And also you can ping me in LinkedIn if you have any doubts related to this part actually, how to onboard your agents in your in day ops lab as well actually. So that's it from my side for my session actually. So it's like, yeah, if you have any queries or if you have any you need any clarification, you can ask me now. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Saravan. So there's no additional questions have come in.
Okay.
So it looks like I would assume you've gone through the session in such good detail that nobody has any other questions to ask. We've now got close to 85 live viewers, so definitely a session that is holding a lot of interest for attendees and for people who are interested in more and more interested in Azure AI. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think really good session. Nick, have you anything?
No, I've not heard about AI before, but I think it's part of machine learning. I think operations. Yeah, should look into it. It looks quite good.
Yeah, it does. There's so many new features and services coming out in the AI space, particularly in the Microsoft AI space.
Yeah.
It's so hard to keep up on it. And I thought that was a very good session just to give that overview and that understanding about integrating those products in with AI agents.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you,
No worries.
Nicholas. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, for the
No
opportunity.
worries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
very welcome. I think if there's no other questions, like if there's any follow-on, Saravanan, we'll
We'll
kind
drop
of
it to you.
we'll reach out to you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
try
sure.
to
Yeah.
answer.
And also, I want to participate more on this community events with more sessions related to IoT as well, and then Microsoft Fabrics as well. Actually, since I'm from both IoT and AI MEP from Microsoft, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No worries.
We love having previous speakers come back on.
Yeah.
It's always something we're very happy with. So absolutely no
That,
problem.
you can do the IoT one. IoT is interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can show you a live demo of my boards as well, so that it will be better. You can see how the live data is getting streamed into my IoT hub or IoT
Oh,
operations. Yeah.
Nice. Amazing.
stick
Yeah.
that one
So
for the next.
next time.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Thanks
sure.
for joining, Sarvan.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Kevin, for
Yeah.
the opportunity.
Thank you
No
so much.
worries.
Thank you.
And
See you
Bye.
till next time.
Good night.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Good night.